Hey folks, John Ferguson Smart here. I wanted to have a little bit of a chat about how you model your test automation frameworks. Modeling is really important in computer science and in software engineering. It's really important to be able to model, to articulate your domain, to model the concepts that you use and manipulate in your domain so that you can write clean, clear, concise code that does exactly what you want to do and that is easy to maintain later on. And this is true of test code just as much as it is of application code. Now the thing is, in application code, what are you modeling? What does an application model? Well, it models the domain concepts. It models things like purchases, transactions, sales, customers, and so forth. We're modeling the domain concepts that we manipulate as part of our business process. But when we write a test automation framework, what do we model? Most often, we try and model the application. We try and model the screens, the fields, the buttons, and we try and interact with them. But there's a problem with that approach, because when we model the application, the screens, the fields, the buttons, what we're doing is we're tying ourselves to a particular way that application has been built. And that means that if that application changes in any way, if the implementation of those screens, of those buttons, of those fields, if that changes, then our tests break. And that's no good, because that means more maintenance, that means less time to write new scenarios, that means less time to spend on exploratory testing and more intelligent testing. So we don't want that. So what do you do? Well, the trick is not to model the application itself, not to try and tie your tests to a particular implementation of the application. What you're really modeling when you write a test automation framework, when you model business scenarios, is the behavior of the users. How do they behave? What are their goals? What tasks are they trying to achieve in business terms? If you could model your domain around those user activities and those tasks, those things change much less frequently than the application itself. And this means that your test code, your test framework will be much more stable, much more reliable, and also much easier to understand because it maps directly back to your business domain, to your business concepts more cleanly, rather than going through the implementation. So there are quite a few approaches to do that. Screenplay is a common one. Action classes. In Cypress, you have app actions. There are lots of ways of modeling your user behavior rather than your implementation. But things like page objects, which is one of the more common approaches, that's not a very good way, because page objects model, well, very literally the pages, not the user behavior so much. So that can lead to test suites which are harder to maintain and more fragile. So that's my tip of today. If you want to make your test automation more stable and more reliable and more scalable, have a think about modeling your user behavior, modeling your user goals, rather than modeling your application. That's all for today, folks. Thanks for listening.